Okay. We are live, and I guess that's all fun and well. Been playing around with the editing software a little bit more, so hopefully the switching will be a little bit easier. And I hope everything is... I hope you can hear everything. So let me actually just check real fast. But yeah, basically, I'll say right off the bat that this is going to be a much smaller week than it was last week, simply because I did not listen to as much music this last week. I only listened to 15 albums, which honestly sounds like a stupid amount, because I think probably most people listen to 15 albums in like the course of a year, or like half a year or something. So in a week, yeah, still a bit excessive, but a lot of them were EPs. I'm going to get that out of the way. And just all things considered, on on one of the days this last week, I didn't listen to basically any new music. I focused on trying to go back and revisit some stuff for January, because I really want to put together like a condensed little video where I can focus on like just the top picks for the month and then make an actual video out of it, because live streams tend to be not super popular in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, let me just, I guess, jump right into it. And well, jump right into it, I say, after a few minutes blathering on. But I think we're okay. I'm going to start off this week with, and here we go, I'm going to switch over. So, right, there we go. I think I'm going to give it just a second and see. There's a slight delay because I started streaming like a few seconds before, or the software started working a few seconds before I went off on the stream. So, yep, okay, everything looks like it's okay here. So I'm still getting the hang of all of this. I think the video is a little bit cropped, but I guess it should be okay still. Anyway, moving forward, like I said, we're starting off with some electronic music. 3 short EPs, honestly, in this genre. The first one here is an EP from Emptiness to Paradox by Arthur the Author. This is just going to be some chill stuff. Lo-fi, hip-hop beats, and they lean heavily into jazz instrumentals. So we'll give this just a bit of a listen here. Got some nice samples in there as well. And we'll give another track a shot here. With the VPN, the tracks are going to load at a delayed rate, but so, yes, there's the jazziness right there. A lot of saxophone, from what I remember, across these 5 tracks. Not a lot, there's only 5 tracks, so it can't be that much, but not quite lo-fi beats to study or work to, because it's definitely a little bit more upbeat, but kind of thing that you, I guess, might turn on over coffee or something. I don't know. Okay, and I guess I can try to get the artwork up there. That is Arthur the author, and looks like some possibly AI artwork, just judging from the clock ends, but we're not going to hold that against it. The music is not. From Emptiness to Paradox EP. So, and again, I will point out, yeah, I took a look at the video. The video is a little bit cropped in on the side, so I'll play around with it, but I'm, second time with the OBS software, so I'm getting the hang of it. Forgot what I was going to say. Anyway, moving along. Next one here is a bit of a sampler. So we have 5 different artists across. This one is the Catel 6 sampler. This is from a label. The label is Catel out of Kazan. And honestly, this is kind of in the same vein as the last one. We have 5 tracks. They're not all that lo-fi, laid-back sort of sound. Here we have more of a mix where there are some of those lo-fi vibes, but then there's a track that kind of feels like some sort of house mixed with Roomba music. And then there's a track that feels like it's a retro synth pop band. And all throughout these tracks, there's lots of those vocal samples that feel like they've been dug out of some dank and musty crate of vinyls. Is it the type of music that would play in a local trendy coffee house? Absolutely. But is that, are you wrong to enjoy it? Not at all. It's good stuff. And you'll hear that in a second when it actually loads. Jump ahead. There's the saxophone again. Maybe that's what I was thinking of it. It was definitely on the last album, or last EP as well. Check out Marmalade, the Crush Loops track. One of Crush Loops is on here twice. So a little less laid back than the opening track, but give it a second. Vocal samples are there. They're just buried deep right now. Ahead. Maybe it's a bit too upbeat for a coffee shop, but it could still work there. All right, so yeah, that's the Catel 6 sampler from the Catel label out of Kazan here in Russia. And then, yeah, up next, the page put to sleep. I probably should keep an eye on that. Here we have the X EP from Broosnica. And just to put this out there, this is a bit of a tribute to the rave and trance sound of the early 2000s. A lot of times it's the type of music I associate with the sound of like Euro techno. In fact, I made a note to myself earlier What's the name of the artist? I heard it on the radio. Robert Miles. Anyway, it's not important. It has a very specific sound. But I want to mention Broosnica here, since he's on the tracks. We can see there are different people accompanying him, but Broosnica is the glue that holds everything together. He's a pretty prolific DJ here on the Russian scene. He releases EPs and remixes and stuff quite regularly, and if you enjoy this, or just, kind of upbeat, fun techno music, Broosnica is somebody you should check out, and I'm positive that throughout 2025 we'll be seeing him again. So let's have a listen. Well, when the song decides to load. I gotta remember to hit play before it starts to play. This is that Euro sound that I was thinking of earlier. I mean, I might be totally off base with that, but that's just the association I have with it. Feels fresh, but kind of nostalgic at the same time. One more. It's gonna be similar, but just jump right into it. That's the wrong place to jump to. It was building. Ah. Let's try again. There we go. All right. Not quite Sandstorm, but, like stuttery, I don't know, synthy, ethereal vocals. And it kind of opens up a bit. So, yep, there you have it. Broosnica with the X EP. Just for anybody who doesn't know Russian, Broosnica also is a type of berry, and I'm probably going to forget, it's a cowberry, but that doesn't mean anything. Just kind of a fun fact. So, I think it's cowberry. Pretty sure it's cowberry. Anyway, it's not like a berry that we normally think of outside of Russia. That's it. That's it for electronic music this week. It was, not to say that it was a week where there wasn't much of it. I didn't actually get through a lot of it. Like I said, I didn't listen to as many albums this week as I have typically in the past. And also, there were a number of electronic releases that were definitely more club focused, and there were quite a few, I would say, singles, and some of them I actually want to get added to the Electra playlist on Spotify, but some of them aren't available on Spotify right now too, so I'm trying to figure out what to do with that. I don't know if I'm gonna just link them somewhere, but yeah. So kind of not slim pickings with electronic music, but that's what we have this week. So we're gonna move into Indian pop. And the first group we have here is Признаки ранней весны, or signs of early spring. And their album here, when it loads, против всего зла, so against all evil or against everything evil. Honestly, this is I didn't like this at first, and it kind of grew on me. And when I looked at the album art and I kind of took a look at the artist's social media page, I changed my point of view a little bit. And I'll show you the picture here in a second, a larger view. But we have 3 very young musicians here. They probably are in high school still, or maybe like in the first year or 2 of university, but they're still quite young. And it didn't really hit me on the first few tracks because I wasn't maybe listening attentively enough. But this is the lo-fi bedroom pop indie rock that would have been garnering just rave reviews on Pitchfork about 20 years ago. It's actually their 3rd full-length album in 2 years. That's based on what I've been able to see on Yandex Music. Maybe they have other things out there, but yeah, I would say, if they keep up the pace of their output and they continue to hone their songcraft, we are looking at somebody who might be a Russian version of the Mountain Goats or even Mount Erie. So yeah, one of them's got braces still. I mean, adults can have braces too, but the artwork too is very mid-2000s Pitchfork, best new music. Feels like it was recorded in maybe a dorm room or just the room of somebody's grandmother's flat. Definitely some maybe psych undertones to it as well. All right, we'll give that was Shampoo без слез, and this is Matterhorn. That's the name of the track. A bit more straightforward here. Skipping all the lyrics. Not my cup of tea all the time anymore. Like I said, it's definitely something, when I was back in university, that would have probably been all the rage. And I kind of hope that is still the same as today, as it was back then. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this trio takes things. And it's worth a listen if you do like that lo-fi bedroom pop indie rock sort of sound, because for as young and as like not long in the game, so to say, as these 3 people are, they've got a pretty solid sound about them. But moving on, we are coming up to El Tri, or the 3 in Spanish / Russian. I don't know. And this is their Холодно EP. And pretty straightforward. This is just an electro pop group, and the three of them are all kind of musicians on their own. They have this little project that they work on together, and they just kind of sorted through all the material that they had thrown together in, I guess, a shared file somewhere. Found tracks that had a winter vibe, which, as they explain, it's the season where you don't want to move around, but you want to be alone, you want to think, you want to remember things, you want to hide away from the world. That, sonically is going to be reflected here. We have cold sounds, again, ambient, airy synths, but there's also some hooky pop rhythms in here too that are going to allow you to dance around a little bit if you so desire. Songs are connected to love and longing. It's, kind of the typical stuff you would expect in the winter. And we have the female vocals with the dark pop atmosphere, the sort of floated, echoey female vocals there, which I think we saw once or twice last month, but I think it's the first time we've seen them here in February. So let's check out L3, their Холодно EP. First track we're going to check out is Побудь собою, which is, if I remember correctly, yeah, that's the sound we're looking for. Jump ahead to the chorus. Zola Jesus again. Zola Jesus. Go listen to Zola Jesus. You hear this 100%. Feels cold, right? And for something a little more upbeat, we'll go with Потанцуй, just dance, and you can hear it with that sort of 80s retro synth sound immediately, right out the bat. Colored by numbers synth pop, but it's okay. We'll jump to the chorus here. Did I miss the chorus? Okay. I missed the chorus, I guess. Okay. There it is. You get the idea. A little bit of cold, kind of introspective, locked away from the world, and then a few moments where people are, I guess, ready for the winter to be over and ready to venture out into the world. But yes, that is L3 with Холодно EP. Now this next one is Безумие by the group МАНИЯ, which is we in English. And I swear to God, if you try searching for this group, even this album title, you will be hard pressed to find them. Now I want to point out that this is actually a group I have heard about before. I actually listened to their album last year. It's a husband and wife duo out of Moscow. Last year they released a double album, I want to say in June, maybe, sometime in the early summer. And it was just all, I was worried it was going to be a lot of filler and fluff and stuff, but it was pretty much all top level, just indie pop songs. Some of the really most fun and interesting stuff I'd heard in that specific sound in a while. And so I was kind of surprised to see that they had released another album that soon, but I guess when I went on their discography on Yandex. Turns out they had released like another one or maybe even 2 albums before the end of last year. So very productive these two are. And here the music's just as good, but it's a little bit different from the East-West album, if I remember correctly, from last year. Which is fair because, again, it's a tone that is more befitting the end of winter. We have the colder synths, we have the echoes, the sound of ice and distance sonically, right? Like the it doesn't actually sound like ice or distance because those are kind of abstract concepts. So, but it's interesting because the lyrics are definitely not as much about longing. Again, it's a husband and wife duo. And through the lyrics are all very much about just like this intense love and just being together with the person that you love. And so we have kind of the colder sounds, but the lyrics are definitely, there are some, there's some imagery, especially on the first track, Angeli, connected to the end of winter with the coming of spring. But yeah, and honestly, just like it was on their album last year, the production is just top rate. This is really good stuff. So I'm glad to hear that they're keeping the bar high for themselves. Like instrumentation, the way things are layered on top of each other, it's... I use the word dynamic, but that's not quite it. But and yeah, the husband doesn't sing all the time, but the alternating male-female vocals or female-male vocals is a nice addition as well here. All right, we'll jump to the next track so you can hear that because they're different. They vary. And we're actually going to check out one after that as well, too, just because. Last one, Kisle, just like more sour. Also the rhythm here with the I can't tell what it is. I swear to God it's from another song, but I have not been able to figure out what it is. So close to another song, and I just cannot figure out what it is. So that's the album, the short album Безумие from MANIYA, and yeah, it's honestly worth listening through all the way. I wouldn't call it my top pick in the pop and indie category for the week, because it's kind of tied with the next album. So just keep that in mind. I really enjoyed this one, and I do like this duo as well. I'm excited to hear more out of them, because everything that I've heard from them so far has been quite nice. But moving on, we're on to anomatвер. I think that's how you pronounce his name. This is another artist I honestly didn't realize until I opened his discography that I had listened to an EP of his last year as well, but I would never have guessed it based on the sound. So honestly, I was excited for this album simply because of the meme level artwork, and I know it's a dumb thing to say, but you know, it is what it is. Plus, after reading a few of the descriptions to it, I was kind of like, all right, this seems like it's going to be kind of interesting. But the reason I was more keyed into this album was because right before listening to it, I attempted to listen to another album, and it was 16 tracks, and it was an album which I had also been kind of excited about. In fact, maybe even more so than this album, because the artwork was really wild, and the description was just like, it's a mix of Soviet retro music and psychedelic and blah blah blah. So not this album, but the other album I was listening to before this. And what happened was, the album I was listening to before this album, during the week, I got a few tracks into it, and I started thinking, like, something's not right about this album. And I started skipping through the other tracks and listening to it. I was like, God damn it, it's AI, right? And for people who haven't run into AI music yet, it's not immediately obvious, but it's the uncanny valley of music. And it's one of those things where AI music can sound pretty cool because it takes a lot of things, but and slaps them together. But ultimately, the problem is they don't feel like they all gel together as they should, right? Just like the machine stacked them together, and when you start playing a song for the first 30 seconds or so, it all works, but it's like spinning plates, right? Eventually, they start to wobble and they start to feel wrong, and there's just no emotion to it. The vocals are always flat, and they feel like they were run through a LimeWire download of like 20 years ago, or I guess 25 years ago at this point in time. And so I was pissed. I was like, I hate being... I hate finding music recommendations where either the people who are recommending the music either are too stupid to realize it's AI, or don't bother to include that in the description, because I feel like that's just, you know, typically when people want to listen to music, if they're actively searching it down or listening to somebody talk or reading what somebody has to write, they want to find something made by another human being. It's art, right? They're invested in it. And so after that album, I kind of was just like, all right, I wanted something. So I came to this album that had a meme artwork. I was like, there's no way in hell you put up an album cover like this and have it be made by a machine, right? Like, somebody actively made a choice to do this. It's not some AI nonsense. And fair enough, it was. But a lot of the stuff I mentioned with the AI album, right? Too many disparate elements stacked together, weird vocals, everything like that. Some of that is here too, but it works. And I want to explain why, right? It's that same combination, but the missing element with AI, emotion, is here throughout all of the music. There's emotion, there's energy, there's just life running through this whole album. And the analogy I had is this is an artist who maybe as a kid, maybe still to this day, goes up to the soda dispenser in the food court and just trash cans all the soda, just gets all of the flavors mixed together in one big container, just a little bit of everything. But instead of thinking that it's just like gross, disgusting flavor and they've done it on a dare, they actually drink it because it's like that chance to try to taste Mountain Dew mixed with Diet Pepsi mixed with Hawaiian Punch, right? Like that weird combination of everything that kind of makes something new and exciting, even if it's not totally understandable. I put this in the pop and indie genre because, first of all, it's such an umbrella term anyway. A lot of things will fall into it regardless. There's some rap and lo-fi here. And like I said, I listened to an EP by this artist last year. This is kind of technically an EP anyway. And last year, the release was 100% in the indie rap category, just with more pop and indie leanings in general. So the dude here, anomatver, he's a bit of a chameleon, but it's great music. It's the kind of music that makes you want to trash cans the soda in the food court and just live a little dangerously. Color outside the lines, dance in your underwear, even if there are people watching. Get the dark chocolate with jalapenos, the flavors that nobody thinks about. Just mix it up and see what you get out of it. Because sometimes you can find some stuff that's pretty goddamn interesting. Now, hopefully the song will start. There it is.
Девчонку звали, вой сирен звучит с моим вокалом в чистом интервале, но у лучшего друга абсолютно нету слуха. Даже медведь не наступил, просто оторвало ухо. Рядом соседка лежит, она заснула давно, но этого я не вижу, все потому что темно.
Jump ahead just a bit.
Извини, что я норме, спасибо, что я поэт. Хорошо, что нету света. В зубах оконный храм, завязы риска выходной. Трогательная история Васечкин и Петров. Эстетика мелких пакостей, рыцарская любовь. В стране наступила осень.
So a lot of different things going on there. And I'm going to just jump us into two more here as well, because this is just a good album. Jump ahead. The dance, like the group, the dance, D-A-N-S-E. That sound. Like dark, heavy synth pop. And then another track, which should be different from the other two. Once it loads. Kind of more upbeat, I guess you would say. Like distorted bass almost, and aggressive bass drumming as well.
Соседка по лестничной клетке меня научила курить. Метелица ёкнуло сердце, здесь нечего больше ловить. Запомнить последнюю фразу, домой возвращаться
Again, the rhythm there reminds me so much of another song from like 10 or 15 years ago. That's one thing I will admit is with Russian, especially pop music, because the what is it, the intellectual property rights here are a bit more wishy-washy. A lot of times you'll hear artists just kind of take the exact same melody from someplace else and then change one or two notes, so it's going along, and then it'll take like a half step down instead of a full step down. And sometimes it's kind of fun because you get into songs like that where it's like, I swear to God, I know that melody, but I cannot for the life of me place it. But yeah, so that's Они даже не знают by аноматвер or аноматвер. Just Они даже не знают is also a reference to the meme, they don't even know. So anyway, that's kind of it for pop and indie. But we have to talk about one release. I guess you could call it maybe a big release of the week. Kind of, maybe not. This is the album Pатриот by Ицык Цыпер and Igor Цыба. Now, if I made a video about a year ago, it was in April of last year, where I was talking about like the biggest singles, the biggest hit songs in Russia of the first quarter. And the biggest song by far was a song called Dymok. And it was, I'll still stand by it. I think it's still one of the best Russian songs of the last few years in terms of just viralness and lasting power. We'll have to see what Sigma Boy is up to. And even though it's kind of goofy and I've listened to more than enough hard bass remixes of it, I have my doubts as to the staying power of Sigma Boy. I think once it burns out, it burns out. Whereas Dymok has held up fantastically. You still hear people, and I'm sure in the summertime, you will still hear people in like old busted out Ladas thumping that thing as hard as possible. But the style of that song, the style it created, and honestly, it's a style that it kind of, Ицык Цыпер seems to be the only artist working in, which is this sort of blatnaya house chanson. This album is basically more of that exact same sound. Now, Ицык Цыпер has been drip feeding people his music for the last year in the run up to this. And in fact, I think one of the tracks on this album, Патриот, is a song that he released sometime last year. But if you liked Dymok, or again, the stream of singles that he released over the last year, then this is an album that you're going to love. And honestly, even if you don't really like it, even though when Ицык Цыпер came out, everyone thought it was a meme. Everyone thought it was a joke. Everyone thought it was some sort of just like a way to get viral attention, because it is a retired guy from Kazakhstan who at, I don't know, 60 years of age, just decided he wanted to start a music career. He had no connection to music whatsoever. He just wanted to start making music. And that's kind of awesome. And he pursued it, and he found a really, really awesome producer and beat maker, which I would assume is Igor Цыба. Because honestly, most of the songs lyrically are just the chanson blatnaya nonsense that I used to hear riding around in those beat up Ladas as gypsy cabs. But it's the backing tracks, it's the production that takes this sort of chanson nonsense and turns it into this really strong blatnaya pop, I guess. Gives it kind of an air of seriousness and I know chanson takes itself seriously, but if you actually listen to chanson, Russian chanson, it is the least serious music genre on the face of the planet. And I want to bring up the lyrics too, because I was reading one person's take on this album, a music critic here in Russia, and they hated this album for the lyrics. They thought that somebody talking about Pitersky glamour, right, like Petersburg glamour or Courchevel, that it felt dated and it felt dumb and and out of touch and not cool and hip. But just like, first of all, it is chanson. Chanson is dumb and out of touch and dated and not hip. And the dude is 60. So it's like, yeah, that's kind of the point. And at the same time, that's kind of what makes it fun to listen to, because nobody in Russia has forgotten. Well, maybe people who aren't old enough to remember it or haven't like grown up enough to learn about it. But people who were alive in the 90s and into the 2000s and all of that stuff remember like ideas and concepts that are being sung about here, even though if they sound stupid and dated a little bit. And there's something fun about that, right? Now, it's not something that I'm probably going to want to listen to all that much on its own, unlike Demok, which still, you turn that on. I love it. But I would say out of the 10 tracks, maybe only 3 of them I would actively choose to skip, just because, I mean, some of them are kind of cringe. I will put it out there. So yeah, the lyrics can be a bit much, but if you don't understand the lyrics too, that's not a huge problem. And I would say, yeah, honestly, out of an album of 10 tracks, if only 2 or 3 of them are kind of stinkers for an artist that many people thought was kind of a meme, kind of a joke, I'd say that's a huge win. So I'm going to just play a few of these tracks here, quite a few. You don't need to listen to much. It's pretty obvious immediately what you're getting into, but just for people who don't know what the sound is, it's different. It's different, but this is, yeah.
Прошли мы нейтральные воды, но где же ты, остров свободы?
Ицык is the older guy on the right here.
Наверно, правей на полрумба. Ну где ж ты, Нирвана? Тащите на борт капитана, пусть скажет своими словами, где город с его чудесами. А ты не знала про 9 баллов, про океаны.
Like that beat is, it's thick. And it's not the only track like that. I mentioned it was kind of house chanson too, because there's a lot of kind of techno sounds going on it. Those woodwinds.
Ушел ваш табор, тогда с рассветом, прямой дорогой, навстречу с летом. Остался только пятак червоный, костер потухший, и я влюбленный. На старом фото, гнедой в упряжке, цыганка Ляля, и я в фуражке. Пустила легкий дымок из трубки, бедром качнула цветастой юбки и упорхнула назло ненастьем вслед со своим цыганским счастьем.
Like electro pop, techno, hip hop, chanson. There's just so many things going on in these tracks, and the fact that it works is just kind of amazing. So I might actually revisit this album more than I initially thought I would. And like here we've got the like the radio rock guitars coming in, but there's that goofy ass like cheap chanson level synthesizer. Fantastic. Jump ahead to the chorus here. Or maybe I'm missing it. It doesn't matter. Now we have that sort of clean guitar sound. The lyrics here are blatная as hell. For anyone who doesn't know blatная music, Blatnaya music is it's like connected to the criminal elements. It's kind of low life, and it's not like thug music or something, but it has that same vibe here in Russia, where it's kind of a shadier element.
Ништяк, я сегодня в кураже, и на все готов уже. Пару девочек ништяк, фиолетовый крузак. Я сегодня в кураже, и на все готов уже. Пару девочек ништяк, фиолетовый крузак.
God damn the production. All right, last one, and we're moving on to the rock and metal final category. After Nidashol here, but is it go? Yeah, there it is. It's loading now. Look at that trap beat. Retro synth wave. Like that bass goes quite low. And then the oh Christ, like the hard in the paint, Lex Luger. Yeah, ridiculous in all the right ways. That's 5 out of the 10 tracks right there. Even the ones that I would probably skip are still well put together. So anyway, moving on, we got rock and metal. As you can see, there are only 7 albums left. And realistically, these first 4 are all EPs, so we're going to move through them pretty quickly. This is Vrazrez T by the group Izgoi. Somewhere between hardcore and the group Helmet. This is the first release from a group out of Yaroslavl. I would say it's hardcore music, but written as a album / love letter to the hard rock and heavy metal of the late 1990s. So it's not just hardcore, but that's very much its bass sound. But you'll hear even maybe grungier elements. Like, this is not very hardcore, but that's more hardcore. Some of that helmet sound with the guitar tones. And we'll give the Prorok track here. Kind of interesting. I hadn't thought about that. Prorok is the... No, it's... Yeah, never mind. Not important. Like, down-tuned bass. Jump ahead. There's the hardcore right there, right? Kind of that stomping, waiting for the pit to open up a little bit. So yeah, that was Vrazrez the EP by Izgoi out of Yaroslavl. Honestly, for the rock and metal albums, I'd say it's kind of the heaviest one for the week too, which might sound strange after some of the weeks we've had. But yeah. Up next, we have the Spasти EP from crucio. This is that alt-rock, alt-metal sound with some post-hardcore and emo elements in it. I would just describe this as the type of music that would have been circulating on the only real rock radio stations, like around 2003, right? Like the not Breaking Benjamin style, but sure, we'll say Breaking the Seethers, that sort of not new metal, the alt rock of like 20, 25 years ago. It's not a super fresh sound, but it's also not bad, and it's done well enough here. So we'll check out the title track. Maybe. A very wintry and bleak album art. Jump ahead. There's the post-hardcore sound. Oh. Let me go back to the soft-spoken word aspects, that kind of back and forth. Not to say the whole EP is like that. Yeah, we actually have some singing. All right, jump ahead now. There's that radio, only real rock. Laser 103.3. So yeah, alt rock, alt metal, whatever you want to call it. That's the Spasти EP from crucio. All right, now we're getting to stuff that I got a bit more to say about. This is the MANIYA EP from PILS. 4 tracks here, which explore the stages of mania, like not bipolarism, but yeah, like I guess that when people enter a manic stage, and it starts out with the joy and the high energy of the beginning of it, and then goes all the way to the burnout and the desire for it to finally be over. I actually watched a short interview with the lead singer, and she was talking about how she herself suffers from manic bouts, and so it's like something that she is familiar with, according to her. The group is self-described as ethno-punk and progressive folk, which is fine, I guess. That's a way to describe it, but it's kind of confusing. I would say that this is, it's a lot like Paramore, but heavier. And I think that's a good thing, because Paramore's pretty awesome. But sure, also ethno-punk and progressive folk. Why not? The group says that they're working, this was their first release, and that they are planning to have a full length out, hopefully later this year, so we'll have to see about that. All right, we'll jump ahead. I guess that's the ethno-punk, I suppose. I feel like Paramore and that type of music, it's good. It's not pop punk by any means. It's not alt rock either, but it's got female vocals too, which I know is something that it's got to count for some people. It's got energy though. Okay, moving on. So yeah, that's the MANIYA EP from PILS. Up next, we have the Phosphene EP from Quantize. Progressive instrumental metal. I haven't talked about instrumental rock on here in a long time. It's been kind of lacking from my musical diet as of late. This is more upbeat. It's got a lot more positive key signatures. But it still shares a lot of the same drive of Russian Circles, which is probably one of my favorite groups. And that's felt all the more so in the second half of these 4 tracks. It's good. It's just a good album when you need a little bit of extra oomph, whether that be in your workout or your work day, or maybe just in a long drive and you need a little pick-me-up to kind of, I don't know, get you re-energized. So... get it started here. Like that kind of upbeat sound is just absolutely it's in opposition to everything that's Russian Circles, but I still hear a lot of stuff here that could be their sound also. So jump ahead a little bit, get the slow part, and then come back around. It's instrumental metal. It's always going to kind of end strong. And the final track, I mean, obviously it's the climax of this short EP, but
How you doing, Ruthie?
the vocal samples make it all the more, I don't know, hooking.
Looks like a direct hit to the heart. Let me have to recalibrate the pneumatic systems as well.
All right, we're going to jump ahead, though. Like that heavier, and the, well, now the drums are too fast, but like that. Like the cymbals, the way that they're playing out, feels very Russian Circles. I mean, I'm sure it's not uncommon with a lot of instrumental metal groups or instrumental rock groups, but this also, which is completely understandable. Russian Circles, like, I think, have inspired so many modern instrumental groups that it's kind of impossible not to recognize them in a lot of the music. Anyway, I would just keep listening to that if I didn't have other things to talk about. But yeah, very good. It's got a nice instrumental metal, which I haven't heard in a long time, or a few weeks, which feels like a long time anymore. All right. We're going to talk about, if Ицык Цыпер was one of the major releases this last week, this one right here, Alisher, by Morgenshtern, is the other big one. And I'm guessing most people watching don't have any idea who Morgenshtern is, and I'll try to fill that in as we go along, but I want to talk about what this album is. And this is another, I guess, example of that flip-flop from rappers who decide to make a turn to like that sort of heartbroken guitar rock / pop punk a la Machine Gun Kelly. Morgenshtern, and I've seen things where he's like, well, it like his very, very, very first album, he was also on guitar and all this stuff, and okay, fine. But for those who don't know, Morgenshtern was one of the more entertaining, if not controversial, rappers here in Russia. And he was always getting into trouble with the moral police, basically, right? The League of the Safe Internet and all of those people who are out to capture those dangerous elements. He was always being... There were scandals and things connected to him. He was a very loud and colorful character. And you know what? That was fine, right? At least he wasn't, selling Nazi merchandise like Kanye West was. He had some face tattoos. He was kind of provocative with some things, but, he was basically a young guy and just kind of an idiot. And, that's sure, whatever. But then the war started, and he basically became a foreign agent. And so he's left Russia, and he's been living outside of Russia for I don't know how long. And yeah, this album here is him kind of pouring his heart out, perhaps honestly. It feels like an act of repentance in some sense, but it's hard to tell if it's being honest or if it's just him hoping to clear up his image. He actually had some facial tattoos removed as well, which is probably not, just random. So maybe he's attempting to clear his name or his image as well, because, he might be tired of living abroad, and maybe he just feels the tides of geopolitics turning, and he's hoping that by removing the face tats and kind of seeking repentance, that he'll be allowed to slip back in to Russia in I guess maybe an imaginary future where the screws are untightened anytime in the near future. It's not happening, but anyway, that's politics. That's not for this time. Or maybe he's just hoping to appeal to a new generation of youth, right? The rapper thing might be kind of played out here in Russia, and maybe this more earnest sort of guitar sound is for him. It's not bad. So if you don't know who Morgenshtern is, this isn't necessarily bad music. It's kind of Russian pop rock, and it's not done poorly, but ultimately I didn't really like it just because it's not Morgenshtern, but it's not bad, and I have to talk about it. So we'll give it a bit of a listen here.
Все, что спрятано в слове этом, стало просто сном. Я скитаюсь по всей планете вечным чужаком. За окном горят огни узоры. Я не помню, что это за город.
Jump ahead to the chorus.
Гонка по границам, моя жизнь, мой чемодан. Лондон, Прага, Ницца, я летаю над землей.
It's catchy. It's definitely catchy. I'm not gonna say it's not.
Птицы возвращаются домой.
But, I mean, I would not, I don't think, willingly choose to revisit it. We'll see. Perhaps. Sometimes albums have an odd way of growing on you, but... How he kind of mumble mouths his way through a lot of stuff, but that's Morgenshtern. Alright, jump ahead. I mean, I can understand why teenagers like this. That also dun dun da 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 dun dun da 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 dun almost feels like it's from The Offspring, but I might be mistaken there. And then here we have kind of the more ballad-like song. His voice is kind of annoying, but it's always been like that. So yeah, that's Morgenshtern, the new version of him, I guess. We'll see. Maybe he goes back to being a rapper at some point, but maybe he's just bored in exile as well. But it's not bad, but it's not Morgenshtern. I guess maybe that's the problem. If he had decided to go maybe with a slightly different alias, you know, like what was when Garth Brooks decided to become a rock and roller. Damn, what the hell was his dumb alternate name? I cannot remember. If he had decided to do something like that, then it might be a different situation. I might have a different view of it all. But yes. All right. All right, we're coming up here on the final two. And the first one we have is when it opens here. Eïdzism is the group. Kind of an odd choice, but fair. And this is Кризис, четверти, жизни, or crisis, a quarter life crisis. And this is side A. So I'm assuming that there will be a follow-up to this album sometime later this year, I would imagine. But this is an emo pop punk group out of Tyumen, which is in Siberia. But there is a healthy dosage of grunge influence in here. Again, you could probably call this type of music just simply alt rock, but honestly, like, where's the fun in that? From the title, Quarter Life Crisis, you can probably understand it explores that first realization that we all have of getting older, time is slipping by, and kind of the fear and perhaps anger that comes with understanding that things haven't been how we want them to be, or that we feel like time is moving by too quickly. So I'm just going to jump right into it. So let's start with Izgoi. Put up the album artwork first here. It's kind of a bit more hardcore, but that's got a bit more of a Nirvana sound to it, though. pretty solid. Then we go for Точка невозврата. Get a bit of a softer, more gentle start, but I'm gonna jump ahead here just a bit. There's that kind of emo pop punk sound. So quite a bit different from the song before this. Almost like maybe a rougher, grungier Blink-182. That's not the best comparison, but actual, yeah, we'll go with this one. I'll only go 3. It's pretty good, honestly. This probably would have been my top pick of the week had I not gone back and dug around lower in my playlist for the next one. But this is just like a good, I don't know. I feel like I would have loved this if I had understood Russian as a teenager, maybe. I don't know. There's that pop punk guitar sound. Just imagine a bunch of teenagers, like a Good Charlotte video with the spiky hair jumping up and down. Yeah. All right, I'll sample up one more. Okay. Yeah. The wait time is always arduous. And this is just like straight up that alt rock sound of the early 2000s also, but that's Ageism with Кризис, четверти, жизни, side A. So, assuming there will be side B later this year. But yeah, the top pick for me in rock and metal and just for the week in general, the album, which I think will probably be one of the top of the month. Oh my God, there it is. It finally loaded. It is by a group called Conifer Beard, which is already a hell of a name for a group. And the album / EP, it's technically an EP, I guess, but I'm going to call it an album. We'll talk about why. It's Странствий. And I typically go, when it comes to an LP, is like, is it 6 tracks? Is it less than 6 tracks? It's an LP or an EP. If it's 6 tracks but less than 20 minutes, then it's also. This is just squeaking in at that. But as a finished product, like in terms of something that you actually sit down to consume, this is one of the most fully formed things I've heard in a while, maybe the whole year so far. And the stoner rock label, I think in the last few weeks this is the 3rd time I've mentioned stoner rock. There was Holy Watts, and then crap, I can remember the album artwork, the one that has like the Tarantino something with the dogs. I cannot think of it right now. Doesn't matter. This is the 3rd album that's definitely got that like stoner rock label, and the genre definitely has been gaining popularity here in Russia over the last few years. But the thing that's kind of nice is that this is an album that takes the stoner rock formula, which is really focused on the south of the US, like really any parts, could be the southwest, could be the southeast, but it adds something new to it. It reimagines the sound, not in that, like, say, dusty United States Southwest, but in the mixed fields and forests of Tatarstan, somewhere on the Kama or Volga River, which is where the band is from. And yeah, obviously the first track and the final track are kind of intros and outros. When it comes to the other four, though, I mean, I could just play from all of them. They're all solid. Oh, there it is. Dog Chasing Song. That was the other group I was trying to remember. It was right in front of my face. Just full. It's well mixed. It just, and the playing is very tight. Like, these guys know what they're doing. Kind of distant vocals as well. The lyrics are all focused on, like I said, the kind of that on the steppe. It's not really the steppe, but out in the Russian countryside, like hundreds of years ago type vibe. All right. I mean, this is another one of those albums that's just like, it's easy to fall into. Again, assuming that you like the sound, but stoner rock, if it's done well, is one of those genres that it's kind of hard to dislike. It's got that kind of laid back southern rock sound, but there's just enough fuzz and distortion to, I don't know, take it to the next level. Cowbell. Just solid. All right, just a little bit more. I mean, it's already, like I said, the intro, the outro track. So there's really just 4 tracks here, but really want to drive this home. This is good stuff. Really good stuff. Let's jump into it, though. Like, lots of alternative percussion as well, which is nice. I feel like, especially in the rock and metal genre, it doesn't get utilized as much as it could. So it's really nice to hear additional elements like that. The clapping, too. there you have it. Yeah. So that's my top pick of the week. Странствий by Conifer Beard. So let me switch back over to the camera there. There we go. All right. So yeah, I know the like video is a little bit narrow today. I was playing around with it earlier, so I'll hopefully have that figured out before next week. I know it's not like a huge issue, but yeah, honestly, I was kind of not as active this week with the music. I'm guessing come next week I'll be back to like the 20 albums a week, which is probably not great because it took me an hour and a half to do 15. So I don't know. We'll figure it out. Yeah, I guess I'll be back on Sunday. I'm going to do the politics this last week. I just sat down to put everything together. I know if you're here for the music, this is not interesting. You can tune out, I guess. But yeah, I'll be back on Sunday to do the political stream where I cover the news of this week. I'll talk a little bit about what happened last week as well. This week looks like it's going to be kind of as boring as last week, which might be a little bit odd because I think everybody assumes that there's some big exciting stuff going on, but I don't know if there really is. And yeah, I have a video, a video video that will be out in about 48 hours. So I'm going to release it on Friday evening here in Moscow. So it'll be out middle of the day on Friday. It'll be all about economics, price of food in the States versus the price of food in Russia. Obviously, I know the price of food in the States has been a bit of a discussion as of late. But yeah, so maybe it'll open some eyes about things there. Probably not, but it doesn't matter. So yeah, look forward to that. And then I really need to sit down and throw together the top of January music one. So maybe people who don't like to sit and preview albums and listen to them for an hour and a half with me, maybe they can just find some short clips. But I'm going to wrap it up. I'm glad all of you who have stopped by, thank you for doing so. And yeah, have a good rest of your week. Just a little bit here left until the weekend. And hopefully, links below the video, obviously. I probably should have mentioned that earlier. I don't know why I didn't. In the order that I showcased them. So if there was something that you liked, just try to find it down there. Count if necessary. So, and yeah. Oh, and then also links to the Spotify playlists for just standalone tracks that are released throughout the year in the various genres as well. So everyone have a good rest of their day. And I will, well, if you'll stick around for the, not stick around, if you'll be back for news and politics on Sunday, I will see you then. Otherwise, I'll see you next Wednesday here. And yeah,